Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me in my podcast, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. This would be episode 14. For the next few weeks, I will focus on character profiles. As I mentioned earlier last week and prior to that for the month of February, and at least for 9 weeks going into past February, that I will focus on the main characters that I introduced or reintroduced into this short story for this first season of my podcast, which we are basically focusing on MOLIAE. And so today we will focus on the character Ecko. I felt that he should come next after Queen Hagar because he seemed to be not just a new character that has never been introduced in my book or my prior websodes, short films and websodes that pretty much he has never been introduced in my book or my websodes, my stage plays, my short film. And I'm not sure if I will bring him when we return back for the prestige return of MOLIAE stage play. That's still kind of up in the air. He just came out of nowhere pretty much. So let's go ahead and get started. This is your opportunity to understand and to know these characters because there are a lot of them. And if you're new to my podcast, MOLIAE is pretty much the production of Moments of Love in Ancient Egypt that was adapted from my book, Mitzrayim, a memoir. And so I started this podcast because it came to me to start writing stories featuring that production, and I will do other short stories that is outside of this theme and this storyline. But for right now, that's what we're doing. And so these character profiles each week for the next 9 weeks, this is the second week out of the 9 weeks that I plan to roll out these characters. I did list the characters that I will be talking about on MOLIAE Facebook page, and you can find that where you will see the image that I'm using for my director clip notes that I gave this announcement. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it for this episode that will most likely be published. That would be February the 12th. So let's get started. So Ecko, pretty much he's from the Orion region outside of the known Sudan realm. I felt when I wrote him, he is in his mid to late 30s. I say a bit older than Queen Hagar, but not as older than King Mahlon. They're pretty much the same age. So, in that type of age framework there. Now, I'm picking up that Ecko is tall. He's medium built. When I see him, when he enters the scene in my mind, wearing a lot of war medals. So pretty much he was born to be a soldier, probably a general in that sense. But he has reached the rank that he's on the High Council of the Orion members. So he's very high in that regard to the regime of the Orions. When I'm talking about him, I do see like symbols of his rank as a secret member, council member connection there. So he know a lot of people. He's seen a lot of things. He know a lot of things. He also has a very large scar. That episode when he came out of the cave and he used the same similar method that the Mitzrayim used to communicate with Comrade Tatar on his mission to Ganuto. And Ecko was communicating to the skies or what have you. When he came out, I immediately could recognize the scar. When I first introduced Ecko, when Natu had to report back to him and the rest of the Orions, I didn't really recognize the scar. I just saw the front of his face. Because remember, he really didn't move or charge at Natu. It was Lanko that did. And so Ecko, in that regard, was kind of hiding that scar. Now that episode, pretty much when the first 4 episodes, you can go back and check either episode 4 or 5. You might have to double check that, but you will see the description when they talk about Ecko when he first on the scene. Getting back to Ecko, he definitely have a high rank position in the Orion's repertoire in that sense, in the Orion's realm of existence. And Ecko is basically a foreigner to the people here, but well known Okay, and it seems that he has some type of, I wouldn't say connection to King Mahlon, but he's pretty much headset force in dealing with going as as an enemy, of course, to King Mahlon, because after he came back down from communicating with that reflection of light that I was mentioning earlier, that the Mizrahi did as well to communicate to Comrade Data that they was with him, he was communicating to his people in a sense, Ecko. And so he did mention, in a sense, he said a comment that ended that scene pretty much. And of course, I think that was for patrons only, that part of it. So you probably, if you're not a patron yet, which is a patron is paying for access for the premium content. So I sent out my upload episodes that are mostly clips. And then the remaining of the story is for patrons only. So you'll have to become a patron to get the full short story. But anyway, he did make a comment ending that scene that related to King Mahlon. So I'm kind of telling you this if you didn't get to hear that part. But at any rate, I feel it now when I was doing these character profiles that Ecko is somewhat, focused on King Mahlon, really to be able to control Mitzrayim, which is basically dealing with King Mahlon, right? So it has to be, I feel at this particular moment of time, King Mahlon is the man during this time period. He's the one with the power. It could be because of the position of Mitzrayim, which we know today is pretty much Egypt. And Egypt is always featured in history, one way or the other, of having extraordinary power and resources and influence. And influence is power, right? But Ecko wants that, and so does his members of his council. So he's tall, pretty much medium build. You can tell he has a lot of military type experience, and plus with that large scar that when he turns, you can immediately see the journey that he experienced that wasn't, I wouldn't say always easy, that he definitely been through some things. But he's very calm and relaxed, like he can hold his anger, compared to Lanko, the other Orion that is always on the edge or so forth, ready to go at it. But he's very strategic. I picked up from Ecko, like he has a very high intelligence. Ecko is pretty much from a military secret regime, comes off very, like I said, intellectual, in the know, because when he came out of that cave, he was the only one. He didn't bring the other members, and it felt, as I wrote it, that he know the bigger plan, the bigger mission of why they're there and why they are after Mitzrayim and why they are targeting King Mahlon. So in that retrospect, you get that feel that Ecko is the main person as the adversary towards King Mahlon. I haven't picked up that King Mahlon know about Ecko, or even Queen Hagar, or even Comrade Data. It's as if it's only Natu that they know, which was the first Orion on the scene in the first episode when I kicked this off, which is, before the time of Princess Aamina, which if you haven't went back and saw that, and that was free access because that was me rolling it out, I encourage you to go and check that out. It does get you into the opening of this time period, which we're going back in time from my book. Okay, my book is where Princess Aamina is on the scene, but these short stories is before Princess Aamina was even born. And so Ecko seems to be, it's hard to describe, but with him, he's very, it's almost like, as we call it, some type of game, And so, because it says that he gave directions to Natu to be on a secret mission. So he's definitely the head leader, but it also seemed like I picked up that he's thinking ahead of the game of what's to come. And so with that retrospect, that's what you get. His texture of his skin is almost, I wouldn't say rubbery or whatever. It just seemed very, not as smooth or was something like that, but more kind of rugged. Perhaps maybe that scar that I saw when he turned his face, it kind of went really on the side of his cheek all the way down, touching to his neck. And so his texture of his skin just seemed kind of rough and rugged, maybe because of his lifestyle, what have you. I'm not sure, but it just seemed that he'd been through a lot. He know a lot, as I mentioned earlier, and reiterating now that when the weeks come and we're returning back to these short stories, we will end up knowing more about Ecko. Okay? So that's pretty much a quick character profile. I gave you some info as well that has not been decided if he will be in the Prestige Return of the Stage play, but he's pretty much an Orion in a sense that I outlined in my book, Midstream, a Memoir, and that he, like I said, is very military stance, and he definitely want to conquer Mitzrayim. All right, so the next I'm going to talk about is for patrons only. So if you want to be a patron, go ahead and check that out. This right here, what I'm about to share with them, will not be public, and it will be something that you might not even get to know about when I return the production to the stage. So, all right, thank you.